Now I get to just go through and dissect this aquarium and look at all the opportunities we have to learn and improve. It's got some absolutely beautiful morphs and an absolutely beautiful anemone. So currently this tank basically has no ammonia and no nitrite. That would signify that the filters are working good enough for the amount of fish we've got. But we've got a little bit of nitrate in the aquarium, which means that we could do some more regular water changes, and we could look at any nitrate removing products that are available, but our phosphate levels are very high. So while we're going for the very easy corals like the morphs and the anemone, we'll be okay. But if we do start venturing into proper stony corals, then they're really not going to survive because the water quality is really not okay for that. pH is nice and high, which is good to see. So the KH in here is 10 and the calcium is 420. So the main constraint we're going to have in this aquarium with the current water quality would be the levels of nutrients, particularly the phosphate. We'd really want to be getting that down if we were to keep stony corals. But as you can see, with the morphs, they're absolutely thriving. Now the salinity or salt level is 1.025, so I'm very happy with that. I can't see a thermometer. It certainly feels okay. Not saying that I'm a human thermometer, but I don't trust the heaters. I always want to have an actual thermometer to cross-reference to make sure that my temperature is correct. I have no reason at the moment to believe it's not. Now, as far as the skimmer is concerned, I really need the skimmer cleaned about twice a week, because what happens with the skimmer is as the fatty acids and bacteria form on the inside of this cup, then instead of the bubbles coming up and coming out over the edge and creating the absorbate, the bacteria, the fatty acids and so forth, then just break it down and send it back. So a skimmer like this will work efficiently for about 3 days. Then during the next week, it'll reduce its efficiency massively, and then it will pretty much after that do next to nothing. So you can have a skimmer not cleaned for weeks, and you can say, oh, it's only taken a little bit out, and therefore you could quite easily justify not cleaning it for weeks. But that's not how it works. You actually want to clean the inside of this on a regular basis. That way it can keep skimming, and that way it can keep removing all the waste from the water. As a little tip too for the future is whenever you're making any of these cupboards for the top or the bottom, you want to ventilate them as much as possible. Whether that means big grates, whether that means computer fans, but it definitely helps to have it ventilated. Then the thing with salt creep is salt creep attracts salt creep. So if you give that a clean, then you'll find that the salt creep will take longer to come back. If it's not cleaned, the salt creep clings onto the water, and then you get more salt creep. So it definitely is exponential. Now, one thing that always worries me is contingency. So one thing that would stress me out a little bit is that this aquarium is run what looks like off a single pump. So we just need to be aware that any single pump will fail at some time. So if it was up to me, I would have a pump which is going to run the aquarium, and then I would likely have an extra pump which is going to provide agitation, provide oxygen, and also serve as a backup. That way, if for some reason we did lose one pump running, then we're going to still be able to have the aquarium function. So there actually is an extra pump here, so I'm fairly happy with that. The pump is clearly facing upwards, so I am getting some agitation on the surface. So there is definitely some contingency here, because if for some reason the big pump went down, this aquarium could survive for a very long period of time on that little pump there. So obviously, due to the design of this tank, it's very hard to keep this on the wall because you really need a magnet. So you'd either got to put it here, which is, let's say, not ideal. It's definitely not going to go here, so that's not ideal. So you'd either need a suction cap ones, and suction cap ones are terrible because the suction cap ones only last for a period of time until the suction caps go. So now we've got the pre-filter here. Now the pre-filter is where it collects the waste, And the pre-filter, how efficient it is absolutely governed by how regularly it's cleaned. And if it gets really dirty like this, that's one of the worst things for your phosphate. So we want to keep this pre-filter nice and clean, and that's going to go a long way to improving the water quality. And it's really important the pre-filter is easy to clean. It's got to be easy to see and easy to clean, so you're more likely to do it. So it looks like you've got a backup heater there. I'm always happy to see backups. It's really important to keep the glass lids clean. Obviously, I've just pulled them off because we want to make sure the water goes through the light goes through the glass properly. Now, the other thing I like to do too is to look at what's available as far as supplies in the cabinet. Okay, so first of all, I found Continuum B. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is a buffer. So I'm pretty sure that's for KH. We've got Microblast. This is pretty good stuff. Most of these biological products, though, I really rather keep them in the fridge. I think that's pretty good stuff. Zooblast, this is pretty good stuff as well. These sorts of biological products too, once they're opened, I prefer them in the fridge. I'm not sure if it's going to say that on it, but that's just something that I prefer. Now we've got now I'm pretty sure this is the calcium supplement. So that one and that one are going to work together. I'm very happy to see that. Element N, this is a trace element vitamin supplement. That's happy to see that. That's good. I'm just looking to tick some boxes here. Now next we've got Microblast. So that's more of that. More Zooblast. That's more of that. Once again, all this stuff I'd rather be in the fridge. We have an empty one of that, so we can chuck that out. We have some Sustain. That's an iodine supplement. Okay, if we ever see infection on fish or corals, that'd be quite good. The other thing too that it's really worth doing every now and then, sending away an ICP test, because an ICP test is able to do all the laboratory tests that we are not able to do. So it gives you a much better understanding of what we don't know that we don't know. So when using products like this, iodine products, I'd rather do that in coordination with an ICP test. So I'd send off an ICP and then I'd monitor the results. Then according to the levels and the suggestions from Triton for the ICP test, I would then monitor what I'm doing as far as our trace elements and vitamins and so forth are concerned. Now, phosphate remover, this is what we need. But I don't like adding phosphate remover without polyfilter because I don't like the residual from the phosphate remover. So I'm going to suggest we start dosing this, but I am going to add some polyfilter to the aquarium. Now, if this was my tank, the other thing that I would do ASAP is I would definitely add a dosing pump. Now, a dosing pump is absolutely your best friend. You've got plenty of room here to set it up, but a dosing pump allows you to control your input and output. So once again, if you're doing regular tests, you're testing your macros like pH, KH, magnesium, phosphate and so forth, then you can control all your macros using your dosing pump, so you don't have to do it yourself. And then you can also control all your micro and trace elements, and that would very much govern how much of these sorts of products we put. Vitamin, trace, all your micro elements get controlled by ICP tests. Even if you're doing an ICP test every 3 months, that's going to give you a really good idea. And it really is the difference between the resilience of your tank and your tank succeeding versus your tank really popping and looking amazing. The ICP tests really bring out what you don't know that you don't know. So we've also got some coral food. That doesn't hurt to add that. Once again, if you've got high phosphate and nitrate levels, don't get too excited with your coral foods. You want to add your coral foods, particularly when your nutrient levels are lower. Otherwise, you want to focus on reducing your nutrient levels first and then using these products more. And once again, it does depend on the fish food that you offer. Higher quality fish foods with adequately fed fish, then the coral food becomes less important, but it is all relative to how many corals you've got versus fish, and your ICPs will show up a lot of that, and so will the results of your corals. If you're not getting the results that you want, your corals aren't growing the way you want, then improving or increasing the amount of coral food would be something you'd absolutely look at doing.